my god, everything is just everything's just crazy. What the hell's going on? Hi, I'm Evie and welcome back to Sea Witch Letters, my little corner of the internet where I share my writing journey with you. So picking up where we left off, Project Sea Witch, my hopefully debut fantasy romance novel about a pirate and a mermaid who go on an adventure and subsequently fall in love. That manuscript, draft 4, is complete. Woo! Big cheers. The cheers around the world. We're so happy. I feel great about that, and as of right now, Project Sea Witch is about to be handed off to some alpha and beta readers. Now, if you're not aware what that means, alpha readers and beta readers are the first and second groups of people to read a novel. So, actually, I guess they're just alpha readers. Okay, alpha readers. Project Sea Witch is going to be in the hands of some alpha readers very soon. We're just working on some NDAs to kind of tie up all the ribbons legally before I hand it off. Which feels crazy to say, NDAs, but yeah, so Project Sea Witch is about to be out of my hands for the first time in my life, which feels crazy. But there's something that comes after Project Sea Witch, and we need to talk about it. So Project Sea Witch is slated to be the first in what I'm hoping turns out to be a fantasy trilogy, 3 books. So it's the first in a series of 3, which means there's a second book that comes right after. So let me just introduce to you the sequel to Project Sea Witch. We're gonna call it Project Prophecy. Okay. Project Prophecy. Let's talk about it. So back in December when I was finishing up draft 3 of Project Sea Witch, I started to get super inspired for the story that would come afterwards. And I ended up plotting the entire novel for the sequel, and I also wrote 18,000 words for it. And then I kind of just sat it aside and left it while I worked on draft 4. But now that draft 4 is done and Project Sea Witch is going to be in the hands of some alpha readers, I figured while I was in between draft 4 and 5, I should commit some time to Project Prophecy, the sequel. And so that's what we're here for. That's what we're going to do. I have a lot to do and we're going to just get started really soon. I'm just going to tell you how it's going to go. So we need to revisit the stuff I've worked on for Project Prophecy. We need to revisit the plotting. I think we're going to make a new to-do list with all the sequel stuff, and I also think I'm going to try to plot the third and final novel in the trilogy just because I don't really see the sense in writing an entire sequel if I don't know how the series is going to end, and I want to make sure everything's intentional and well thought out. So we're going to make that to-do list, try to plot book 3, and just get into some sequel stuff with Project Prophecy. Okay, let's go! Okay, step 1 of locking in on Project Prophecy would be my to-do list. So let's get into it. This is my to-do list from my 4th draft of Project Sea Witch, and we gotta erase it and rewrite a new Project Prophecy to-do list, which is very exciting. So let's do that. Okay, here we have my to-do list for Project Prophecy. Now, let's see what we have to do. We want to plot book 3, and I know you're thinking like, well, why would you plot book 3? This is about book 2. What is the point in writing book 2 without knowing how book 3 ends, is what I would say. Then after I plot book 3, I want to review what I've already plotted for book 2, just to make sure that it still checks out and still works. Then I have to reread the 18,000 words of the first draft that I've written so far. Then my goal is to finish writing part 1 of draft 1, which I think would be doable because I'm quite a ways into part 1, so I want to just finish part 1 of draft 1. Then I want to begin part 2 of draft 2, which is, you know, usually I write these, or so far I've been writing these in 5-part story structures, so part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Part 2 obviously is where things really go crazy and kick into gear. And then I want to make some book 2 concept art. If you don't know, I'm a visual artist. All this stuff behind me I made as concept art and artwork for book 1, and now I want to make some concept art for book 2, so I'll probably do some digital drawings, maybe a watercolor or 2, but that comes after the writing. So first, let's start by plotting book 3 of my trilogy. Okay, here we are with a new angle. I've got my matcha latte, I've got my laptop, I've got all my notebooks, and I think we're just gonna open this up and get started on plotting book 3. Now, I don't know how much I've talked about this before or if I've talked about it at all, but for plotting these fantasy romance books in my fantasy series, I've been using the Save the Cat story plotting structure. If you don't know what Save the Cat is a format and a way to kind of plot your story that was popularized through screenwriting. And now it's kind of a big thing in the book writing space too. And it's a nice formula and a nice way to kind of make sure that all your story beats hit and that it follows a more traditional story structure. You don't have to use Save the Cat. I don't think I'll probably use it for every single book I'll write in my life, but for these fantasy books, it's been working really well. So we're gonna write Save the Cat story structure for the 3rd book in my fantasy series. Let's go. Okay, I've just finished plotting the entire 3rd book, and I really, really love the ending I came up with and the plot I came up with for book 3. It makes me a lot more confident to dive into book 2 headfirst, knowing what's coming. And so, yeah, now I think I'm just gonna check that off on my to-do list, and I'm gonna head into like checking over the plot for book 2 and trying to read and write a little bit more of book 2. So let's get into that. Okay, so I'm getting into reading the first draft that I wrote back in December, and I just finished the prologue in chapter 1, and I'm pretty into the concept that I have going. Obviously it's a first draft, so it's like not polished and not pristine, you know, some grammar mistakes. I'd obviously like to tighten up the prose, but we're not going to focus on that right now. I'm just going to keep reading. I've like about 7 or 8 chapters I think in total, so I'm gonna try to read through a bit more. I'm gonna try to take some notes on, you know, the characters and their arcs and see what plans I can come up with. But yeah, I guess my goal for right now is just kind of rereading and then figuring out where I'm gonna go from there. But before I get back into rereading, I think I'm just gonna talk a tiny bit about the plot of book 2, just so that whoever's watching this isn't completely in the dark as to what I'm talking about. So Project Prophecy, book 2. This book picks up exactly where my last one left off, so without giving away too many spoilers, the book follows Julian Blackwell, the Pirate King of Adlacia, and he is kind of sailing off on a new mission to find some new magical artifact or some new thing. Trying to be vague just so that I don't kind of give away what it's about, but he's on this new mission, and then all of a sudden he's named in a prophecy from this princess who has these prophetic visions and kind of poetic prophecies that she tells. And ever since she named Julian in her prophecy, she all of a sudden has stopped being able to say prophecies. So she tells a prophecy about Julian, about the Pirate King and his fate, and then all of a sudden no more prophecies from this princess. She's known in my book as the River Princess. So she gives a prophecy about Julian, and he finds out about it, and he's like, what the hell's going on? He's like, I don't want to be named in a prophecy. And then things unfold where he kind of needs to get his crew together to go on a new adventure that entails new things, to kind of see this prophecy through. So that's why I'm calling it Project Prophecy. It's a very prophecy-focused book. Take a drink for every time I say prophecy, or don't. That's dangerous. But yeah, I'm gonna just keep reading what I have so far for draft 1, and yeah, that's the premise. We're locking in. I'm loving it so far. Okay, my reading through draft 1 of book 2 is going pretty well. I'm like 60-ish pages in. I'm realizing that I kind of wrote myself into a corner with book 1, because in book 1 most of the chapters have epigraphs. If you don't know what an epigraph is, it's just when there's a little section of like a quote or like a little excerpt of something before the chapter starts. A lot of fantasy or sci-fi books have epigraphs. It's like kind of a thing. It's a little outdated these days, I think, but I don't care. I want epigraphs in my first book. I use them to kind of like foreshadow the plot and expand on the world building and the magic. But I'm realizing that I have not written epigraphs into most of book 2, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have to make a list of each chapter and try to figure out what epigraph I can write for each chapter. So I've run into that, the epigraph problem, but otherwise the plot is pretty solid and I like it so far. The crew is just about to set off on a new mission, and by accident they happen to acquire a couple new crew members. That's kind of a theme of this book. Julian acquires crew members from like random different things that happen, and we expand on the crew of the Sea Dragon, which I think is really fun. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading, and I think what I'll do, instead of trying to write a bunch today, I think I'm going to plot the next couple chapters that come after where I've written up to. So that's where we're at for Project Prophecy. We're gonna keep reading and then plot some chapters. Okay, I have officially, oh my god, did you guys see that? He just jumped up right behind. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if this is in frame, but my cat just jumped right up to be with me. Okay, anyway, I just reread all of my stuff and I started to plot the next few chapters in the upcoming draft. So we're just gonna check that off the to-do list. And I honestly think that we're gonna call it for the day. We can check off review plot of book 2, nice. And we can also check off reread 18K words of draft 1. Okay, so we got about halfway through the Project Prophecy to-do list for the day, which is great. I'm not gonna have time to write a bunch more chapters because I work in a little bit, so I'm just gonna call it here, and I will be back with more sequel stuff very soon. Okay, hi, it's a few days later since I last checked in, and I have a few updates about Project Sea Witch and Project Prophecy. So, on the progress with book 1, I'm currently lining up my beta readers. I'm about to send out some emails today. I have like an agreement of confidentiality. I have a Google intake form. So I have to make some videos on TikTok about that to kind of gauge interest and get together a little community of people. But so far, so good on pushing, you know, Project Sea Witch into the next phase of its life. And because of this, I had to take a few days of break on the sequel Project Prophecy, but today we're gonna get back into it. I'm just doing some final edits on book 1 before I get out to beta readers this week, and then book 2, we're going to continue with plotting and developing through part 1. So yeah, stay tuned. Hopefully I'll get to do a lot more book 2 stuff today, but for now, final edits on draft 4 to be put out to beta readers, and then we can get into some sequel stuff this afternoon. Great. So I decided to just bring you guys along for my final edits on draft 1 and my beta reader stuff and my forums. I know this is like a book 2 vlog, and very much it is, but a lot of stuff in between book 1 and 2 has just constituted me trying to like get things in order, get a few people to read, you know, draft 4 of book 1. So I have my matcha latte here. I have my computer here, and basically what I'm trying to do is just like really like final edits, like stuff that has to do with formatting, stuff that has to do with just rereading the manuscript front to back. So I'm trying to do that, and then I think I'm going to do that for a bit, take a little break, and then send out a couple emails to some confirmed beta readers, which is very exciting. I feel like this is so crazy to be at this point. I've been writing this book for over 2 years, and I feel like my hard work has kind of finally culminated. Last night I got to share the first couple chapters of my book that no one has read at all, with one of the special people in my life, and they said it was really good and they really liked it and they were really engaged with it, and it just made me so happy knowing that like the hard work I've put in and the passion I have for the story and like learning how to do the craft of writing has kind of paid off. So yeah, I know this is a book 2 vlog, but we're just gonna spend this morning finalizing stuff for beta readers on book 1, and then we can get into some more sequel stuff But yeah, okay. Cheers. Let's lock in. Okay, checking back in. I just sent out my first 2 intake forms for beta readers. I had 2 online friends that confirmed with me that they want to beta read my novels, so I sent them. I have like a Google form just to gauge like people's reading habits, their interests, like, you know, if they're okay with reading the more like intense scenes in the book, just to get people's info. So yeah, now that I've sent out my first 2 intake forms, I'm gonna make some posts online, trying to gauge interest for beta readers, and that's going well. My edits are going well too. I'm about 100-ish pages into final edits. I think I'll be able to finish this in like 2 days. Honestly, this is just like simple stuff for the final edits, but yeah, I'm super excited. I feel like it's all happening, and yeah, I just wanted to update you guys with that, and I'm gonna jump back into final edits so that I can get this manuscript out this week. Okay, checking in after another like hour or so of work. I'm 167 pages into like my final edits for my beta readers, and unfortunately I have to take my cat to the vet, so I'm gonna go and then come back and hopefully get through a bunch more pages for my beta readers and get to plotting a couple of chapters for my sequel. Okay, let's go. Okay, update. I came back from my appointment. I've been editing for the last like hour, and I know I said I was gonna plot some stuff for book 2 today, and I know this video is about book 2, okay, hear me out. I just am really locked into these final edits for my beta readers, so I'm just gonna make this day about final edits for beta readers and then make a plan for this week to continue drafting book 2 and writing book 2. But so far, I just want to say we're on page 231, which is so many pages to edit in one day. Now granted, they're not difficult edits. They're like changing, for example, the pronoun he to Julian to be more clear of, you know, who's saying what, who's doing what, or like changing the spacing between dialogue, like changing semicolons to commas, really easy basic stuff like that. But still a lot of editing to do, so I think I'm just gonna keep editing for the next like hour or so, see how far I can get. I also wanted to say in this update, I did something very cool with my Kindle, which is I actually transferred my manuscript to my Kindle, which is something you can do, I learned, if you download your manuscript as a PDF and you send it to your Kindle email, which you can find in your Kindle settings. You can put your book on your Kindle, which is so cool. This is literally the book I'm working on right now, and seeing it in this form has been so crazy. I've been reading through it in that form to like realize what I need to edit and not, and it looks like a real book, and I'm just floored by that. So yeah, anyway, if anyone was curious, you can put your manuscript on your Kindle, so you should do that. Anyway, I'm just gonna get back into book 1 edits to prepare for my beta readers, and then I have made some TikToks that I'm gonna post tonight to hopefully gauge interest for beta reading. And yeah, I'm so excited for people to read my manuscript. And then after today, we'll move back on to book 2 stuff, because book 2 is the real tea and what this video is about. So yeah, okay, great. That was my update. Back to the drawing board, not the drawing board, back to editing. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to call it a day on beta reader edits. I didn't really get around to developing chapters for book 2, which is okay because I have like over 100 pages written already and I'm like well into the exposition, so I think I'm just gonna revisit that later this week. But I got to page 262 of beta edits, so that's great. Now I'm gonna go post my videos and hope that some people online want to beta read my book for me and help me with that. Okay, I'll see y'all soon. Okay, hello, I'm back. It's the next day and I know it's been such a short time, but I feel like so much has happened. 11 people have filled out my beta reader form, which is crazy. So today I'm gonna be continuing on final edits for my beta readers and plotting a couple chapters from book 2. I think I'm gonna start with plotting some chapters and then I'm gonna go into edits. I only have like 3 hours before I have to go to work, but I really want to be productive. And I know this is supposed to be like a book 2 vlog, but I think maybe I'll just make it a trilogy vlog. Originally I started being like, this is all about the sequel, this is all about book 2. But honestly, it's all working together as one big thing. And I think we're just gonna call this like writing a fantasy trilogy is chaos or something crazy like that, because writing a fantasy trilogy is chaos. And I don't know, I want to make a video, but so much is happening at once. It's not book 2, it's not book 1, but it's both at the same time. And oh my god, everything is just everything's just crazy. So yeah, I think we'll plot the next chapter of book 2 just to get like going and get started and get like the wheels turning in my head, and then we'll go back into edits for my beta readers. I'll check the form, I'll see if anyone else has applied, but okay. Let's plot some of book 2. Okay, so I've just plotted the next like 2 or 3 chapters. It's like 2.5 chapters of book 2. Book 2 is kind of interesting because, without giving too many spoilers, a few of the characters from book 1 who were not previously pirates go on to become pirates and become a part of the crew in book 2, which it's kind of a trope when it comes to pirate media, but it's a trope I absolutely love. And yes, that's what we're doing. I plotted those few chapters, and now with the time I have, I really need to just dedicate it to doing my final edits for beta readers and maybe make a few videos to try to invite people into that community and the team of beta readers, because obviously, as most kind of like aspiring writers or aspiring authors out there know, a big way to get people engaged with the concept of your book and your community is to post on TikTok. Now, I don't love posting on TikTok, but it's kind of just what you gotta do, and there's a lot of fun to be found in it if you can kind of just be whimsical and lighthearted with it. So I'm gonna make a few videos while I edit, do my final beta reader edits. I've got like, say, how many? Like 400-ish? Just a bit less than 400 pages, I think. That's a lot of pages. I just gotta get into it and do it. Never mind. Okay, so editing is going pretty well. I'm at 300-ish pages in, and we're going on a big adventure, and I know you guys have already seen me edit this book on my 4th draft, but obviously this is a little different because it's a beta reader thing. I've been checking my form for my beta readers, and one thing I keep noticing is that there are like people who have TikTok accounts full of like AI stuff who have, you know, applied to, oh, hi buddy, who have applied to beta read for me, and I'm like, I'm finding it hard to like discern who genuinely wants to beta read my book and who just like wants to have access to the book. Not that I'm like thinking anyone's trying to scam me, but I don't know. I have like a confidentiality agreement that I'm gonna send out to everyone who left me their emails, and like if they all sign my agreement, then that should be fine. But it's like a bit weird because I can't tell like whose profile is real, who's not. So most of them feel like real people, but some of them I'm like, are you a person? Do you just like run people's books through AI to give you advice? I don't understand. Someone asked me in my Google form about like how am I gonna pay the beta readers. I thought it was pretty implicit that beta reading was like a thing you do for free. So I don't know what's gonna happen with that. This feels all very chaotic and silly, but I'm just trying to lock in. I've got like an hour and a half till I have to work, so I'm gonna try to get a few more chapters done so that I can feel like I'm ready to send the book out by the end of the week. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep editing. I have my little bubba here, Twilight. key so perfect and special. Okay, checking in, I made it to page like 325, which is pretty good. It's nearly halfway through my manuscript. I think if I spend tomorrow morning working away at it and a bit of time Friday, it'll be ready to go out on Friday. So that's what I'm hoping, that it can go out on Friday. I ended up having to kind of like post a video online being like, hey, if you want to use AI to edit my manuscript, please don't apply to be a beta reader, just because so many AI accounts were offering to beta read for me and I didn't like that. So I made that post. I posted to Instagram asking if anyone who follows me there would like to beta read. That's like a bit of a wild card because that's my personal Instagram. It's not like a writing account. It's just like my personal Instagram where a bunch of people who I've known throughout my life follow me. So we'll see if anyone there wants to read it. But yeah, hopefully by the end of this week I can finish dealing with beta reader stuff so I can move on to, or move back to the rest of the trilogy. But yeah, for now I think I'm gonna call it quits for today just because I have to go to work in like 30 minutes. But yeah, I'm almost halfway done my beta reader edits and still scouring the internet for more beta readers. So yeah, at least today I got done some chapter plotting for book 2 and some final beta reader edits for book 1, which makes me happy. So yeah, hopefully next time you hear from me, I'll have really exciting updates. Okay, bye. It's a day later. I really want to get done my final beta reader edits today. So that's what we're going to focus on. And then, you know, we'll see how far we get on that. A bunch of people have filled out my beta reader form, which makes me very excited as well as very scared. It all feels very real. So really the only thing to do is just kind of try to lock in and get it done. So we're going to do that today. Finish beta reader edits, hopefully. I don't know if I can get through like 400 pages of edits, but you know what? It's good to push yourself to reach new goals. So that's what we're going to do today. Writing update. It's time for an update on, well, not writing, editing, I guess. I'm on page 400, chapter 27, which means I've been making some good progress, and I don't know if I'll be able to finish everything today, but it's going well so far. I have my matcha, which is obviously propelling me through this. But yeah, I'm doing a pretty good job with the edit. I find the longer I go, the easier it gets, and the stuff I've edited more recently is easier to re-edit. These aren't like big edits at all. They're very much like spacing edits, like sentence flow edits, and like a lot of pronoun edits. I think I've said this before, but I have learned throughout my process of writing that it's so much of like a stronger writing choice to say the name of the person who said something or did something rather than just use the pronouns over and over. Like instead of using he, I always switch it to Julian, and obviously it's fine to use he like here and there, but I try to have mostly names as the indicators of who says something, because it can be really confusing if you just have like he said that, she said that, they did this. It's like, who's doing that stuff? So that's the kind of thing I'm working on right now. And yeah, I'm at page 400. I'm gonna try to get another 100 pages done. Fuck it, why not? So yeah, that's my writing update. Let's keep going. Okay, checking back in with a little bit of an update. I'm on page 442 right now, which is great. We're making really good progress. I made myself a little bit of mac and cheese for a little lunch because I'm starting to get hungry. And yeah, I'm gonna keep slogging through. I'm hopefully gonna make it to page 500. That's my goal. Yeah, I just checked my beta reader form. Like 44, I think, people had filled it out, which is crazy. I feel so thrilled. So yeah, just gotta keep going with the beta reader edits so that we can hopefully get this manuscript out by the end of the week. Okay, editing check-in, final beta reader edits. This is my current update. I am at page 508 of the manuscript, and I've just gotten to part 4, which is called The Rescue of the Old Crone, which obviously indicates there's going to be a little adventure, a little bit of saving happening. It's kind of funny talking to the camera about my book's plot points when truly no one has read it and no one knows what happens. So it's just like me babbling about stuff I made up, whatever. forgive me if I seem a bit like delirious. I've just been really locked into getting these beta edits finished. Yeah, so we're gonna try, I've got like an hour-ish more of time before I have to go to work. So we're gonna try to use that hour to get through as many pages as I possibly can. In total, it's about 720 pages, which means being at 508 pages makes me very close to being done. And I know that probably sounds like a lot of pages for a debut novel, and it is, but that's because it's formatted like a book page. Like, it's kind of a smaller formatting. Like, it's not the usual Google Docs page formatting. If it was, it would probably be like hundreds of pages less. Anyway, so page 508, we gotta finish as soon as we can because I want to start getting some manuscripts out on Friday. So yeah, okay. Okay, friends, another writing check-in / editing check-in. I made it to page 562, which feels like a great accomplishment for the day. I also made a little mock-up cover for my beta readers when they read the book. So yeah, I did, what else did I do? I did more beta reader stuff. I drafted some emails and began to set up the contracts I have to send out. It's all very exciting, but unfortunately I have to go to work, so I will see you very soon, probably in like a day or two with more stuff. Okay, bye. Hello, I'm back. It's been quite a few days since you last heard from me, and a lot has happened. So I have a list of 20 beta readers. My manuscript has been sent out to 4 of them, and I'm sending out confidentiality agreements to the rest of them over this week. So today I'm going to do some emails for that, and I've also progressed on my sequel, Project Prophecy. So today we're going to do just a couple emails for beta readers, and then we're going to work on Project Prophecy. I figured out a big kind of plot issue I was struggling with, so I'm excited to just go forth. But yeah, my ringer's on, sorry. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. So I'm just gonna set you guys up by my desk and we're just gonna work away and make some progress. Okay. Okay, so before I get started on writing for today, I'm going to put some information into my confidentiality form so that I can send them to my beta readers later today. And what that means is I just have to enter their names into my form and make little PDFs of that. So that'll take barely any time at all. I'm just gonna do that first, and then I'm gonna get into writing after that. So I'll check back in a little bit. Okay, checking in. I finished writing all my emails. Those are good, those are great, those are off. And I also prepared my forms to be sent off, which is great. So beta reader stuff done for today. And now I am writing book 2. Finally, we're back to writing book 2. I have 151 pages on book 2 and about 20,000 words, which is very exciting. It's going really well. I'm finally starting to have some breakthroughs and really love the story, so we're just gonna work on book 2 and see how far we can get. I think from now I'm gonna be plotting some chapters because a lot is about to happen and I need to plot it. I have like a loose idea, but I haven't gone through and done like chapter beats for every chapter. So I think what we're gonna do now is plot some chapters and try to write maybe 1 or 2. We'll see. I have currently, let's see, how many chapters have I written? 10 chapters. They're pretty short. They're short-ish. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter, but I have about 10 chapters on book 2, which is super, super exciting. And so yeah, we're just gonna keep going on that. And let's plot some chapters for Project Prophecy. Okay, I'm back. Let's talk book updates. So yesterday I finished writing part 1 of book 2, which very exciting to me. That went pretty well. I think I'm pretty happy with the direction it's going. And then in regards to book 1 stuff, I have my book with some beta readers. I still have to send it out to some more beta readers, but overall, feeling pretty good about that. I've gotten like a little bit of feedback so far, which is like pretty overall good feedback. I think when I get it back for draft 5, I'll be doing like a really technical tweak with like grammar and sentence structure and all that. But for now, we're gonna focus on book 2. I'm gonna try to plot some chapters for my upcoming chapters because things are getting crazy in part 2 of book 2. And yeah, I also might start a Pinterest board for book 3, maybe. I don't know. Is that too much to do? Should I just focus on book 2? I don't know. I'm gonna just try to plot some chapters for book 2 and we'll see how it goes. So let's get to work. Okay, so we're here at my desk. We're gonna do some plotting. I've got a big water bottle all full of water. I've got my to-do list, which I have checked off most of, which is great. I just decided while I was getting set up that maybe I think what I'm going to do is do a bit of plotting chapters for book 2, and then I'm going to do some art and sketching and working on some of my concept art for book 1, just because I'm constantly doing new iterations of different scenes and I just want to advance on that a bit. So what we're going to do first is plot some chapters. After we plotted maybe 2 or 3 chapters, then we can get on to some art. Okay. Okay, I just plotted chapters 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, so that's 4 chapters. I feel pretty good about that. Unfortunately today I don't have as much time to write as I always do, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work a bit on one of my drawings from book 1, and I haven't really put any art content out here on YouTube, so I guess I'll show you guys my drawing and tell you a bit about, you know, me and my relationship to art and making art for my book, and then I'll show you guys a little bit of the process. Oh, hi buddy, this is Twilight. He really wanted to be included. He really likes being included when I film. Hi Papa. Hi, wanna come here? Yeah, he's very social. He just wants to say hi. He is a little bit of a pirate cat himself, so he's a perfect friend to hang out with while I write. Yeah, hi. He just likes to be included. Okay, so Twilight and we're gonna go get some art supplies and get set up and make some drawings. Okay, so to draw I have to clear out my desk of a bunch of stuff, so we're gonna just start moving things. First I put my laptop away so I can have room for my papers. Okay, then I'm gonna take these books and just put them down on the ground, move my little notebook and my marker, my water. And now we have a nice free desk where I can draw. Okay, so before I finish setting up, let's talk a little bit about the art. I don't know if I've said this before. Actually, I think I have said this before, but all the art on my walls and behind me was made by me for the book. And I am also an artist, as well as, you know, being an aspiring writer. I've been an artist for a lot of years, many years, and this is the current piece I'm working on. It's supposed to be a piece of like my mermaids transforming to humans under the full moon, but you know, I think there's just a lot more detail that I could add, and I just want to spruce it up and make it pop a little more. So that's what we're going to work on, and then I'm hopefully going to use this page that is blank to sketch. I haven't decided what scene yet, but I want to sketch and draw a lot of my scenes, so we're going to have to pick a scene. But first we're going to focus on my drawing of the scene that I call the moon dust. So let's get my supply. Okay, I've got my markers. These are the Ohuhu 60 Colors Dual TJP marker pens. They're water-based markers. I like this set a lot. And what I'm going to do is just use them to add some texture to the sand, the water, and maybe even the moon. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm going to do that.
I added a few more details to the shoreline and to the water and to the moon, and I'm really liking how it's coming along, but I just wanted to share with you guys. I hope you can see him. Little Twilight has decided that it's time to cozy up just on the side of my chair. How cute. Oh my god. I can't. He's the sweetest little guy. Back to, this. I just wanted to show you guys how cute he is. I think I'm going to do a little bit more detail on this and then put it away and try to sketch a new scene. Okay, so for this drawing, I think I'm going to try to draw the palace from my book. Now, the palace is on kind of a bit of a cliff. Let's say it's about that tall. And the cliff overlooks the ocean. So we're going to put the ocean kind of there at the bottom. And this is the cliff. I guess the palace is going to sit within these kind of confines. Maybe, yeah. And maybe at its tallest, it'll be kind of this tall. But I really want to draw this because a lot of the imagery in my book is like seaside imagery, and I kind of drone on quite a bit in the book about this like cliffside palace, and it's significant because it sits over the sea where the mermaids swim below, and it's kind of almost like a colonial symbol of dominance over nature to put this palace up on this big cliff. So that's what I'm going for, and I want it to kind of, I don't know, I want it to really look like intimidating up on this big cliff, so that's what I'm going for. I don't know if you can see, but the palace is going to be right here, the cliff is going to be here, and the ocean will be down here. So yeah, I mean, it's a good start. Okay, that's all for today. I've done a bit of drawing, a bit of plotting, and I'll be back soon with more book 1 and 2 updates, hopefully. Okay. Hello everyone, I'm back. It's the next day, and I have quite a few things to do. I have some emails to send, some beta reader forms to do. I've kind of been falling behind on that, so I really need to just get that done and send out my final chunk of beta reader forms. My book is with like half of my beta readers, but the other half I still need to get it to them, so that's something to do. And I really want to but like make a lot of progress on the drawing I started yesterday of the palace in my story for book 1, and I would also like to maybe write for book 2 a little bit. I'm feeling, I don't know, it's a bit tough where I am right now at book 2, so I think I might just select like one of the next 5 chapters and write one of them. I usually write in order, but I think the key when I'm stuck on book 2 might be to write out of order. So yeah, I have my matcha latte. I'm ready to just kind of sit down and get some stuff done, but I think to ease into it, I'm going to start with making some artwork. So I'm going to do a bit of watercolor and hopefully prime myself to just get back into my world and do a bit of work on, developing my trilogy, I guess. I think originally when I started this video, I thought it was going to be a book 2 vlog, but now I think it's going to be called something like Developing a Fantasy Trilogy is Chaos, because it is. But okay, anyway, clearly by the tone of my voice, I need to drink this and just get started. So okay, let's do some art. Okay, so I'm going to continue sketching the castle from book 1, and then I'm going to do some watercolor, but I thought that while I sketched, it would be fun, instead of just taking like some b-roll of me sketching, it might be fun to talk a little bit about, I don't know, like writing a book and, a lot of the stuff that comes with it, and just like how things have been going for me and my thoughts on a lot of this, like the space of trying to become an author and trying to, follow that dream. So yeah, I don't know. I think I think it can be kind of tough. The stage I'm in right now, at least, I'm finding it pretty tough because, you know, you have kind of no idea if what you're doing is actually good and if anyone's actually going to like it. And I know that a lot of people call that just imposter syndrome, but I think like a part of it is realism and just kind of trying to set realistic expectations, you know, not be too full of yourself. And just because I really love the project I'm working on and I'm passionate about it doesn't always mean that other people will. And that's something I've had to keep in mind in the process of like trying to solicit beta readers and beta reader feedback. I just have to be open to the idea that not everyone is going to, you know, care about it in the same way that I do. And my only task as the author and the creator is to do my best to make, you know, my art and my work something that is, you know, that can resonate with people or something that's worthy of caring about, something that has something to say. I know I've noticed, I guess, that a lot of people seem to want to become an author just for like the title of it or the acclaim that you can get by being, you know, a bestseller, which, you know, doesn't happen to everyone. But I know that, or at least it feels like, spending a bit of time in these spaces, it feels like some people just want to write a book and get it out as fast as they can so that they can, you know, say that they wrote a book or say that they're an author. And that's really like not what I'm in it for. I kind of could care less about the acclaim. Obviously it would be nice to be acclaimed for my work, but I really feel like deep down all I want is like for a few people to really care when I put it out as a book one day. Like I would just like, you know, a few people that read it and loved it, that would mean the world to me. But I don't know, it's weird existing in this space and seeing like, I don't know, seeing people just kind of trying to make like book sales. And I know we all have to try to make book sales, but I don't know, I just see a lot of stuff online that leads me to believe that, you know, maybe some of us are in it for different reasons than others. That's not me trying to like talk down on, you know, other people in the book space. It's just interesting to me how, you know, there's social capital now behind being an author. And I guess in a way there probably always was. I just wasn't paying attention. But it's been an interesting thing to see as I've been in this space. And yeah, I'm just sketching the shape of the cliff and the palace. I don't know. I think it's hard to believe in your own work when no one has like read it front to back. And even though like right now there are people beta reading my book, and like I do have to kind of just get okay with the concept that there's things they're not gonna like, and that's okay. Like I read books all the time, and there's things I don't like that are in those books, and you just kind of have to be graceful about it and not, you know, care about it in a way that you can let it like affect you mentally, I guess. If you want your work to be public, you just gotta be okay with the fact that people are gonna read it. People may like it, they may not. People may have stuff to say about it. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot as I go through this process. But I'm still so early in the process that it's, you know, I don't want to call it too early because I don't have any books out yet, obviously. I'm just trying to be like humble and, you know, connect with people like me who, you know, maybe none of us have books out yet, but it's our dream to have some books out someday. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Drawing some towers. I do not know how to like draw a palace, genuinely. I know I was like, oh, there's a palace in this, you know, in this cliff, and that's a big part of the story, and it is a big part of the story, but I don't know, like, I'm not an architect, I'm not like a student of architecture history, so I don't know really how palaces were constructed. I know how the palaces were kind of like constructed, like I know there were stonemasons and builders and all that. but I don't know how accurate what I'm doing is to that. I want it to be kind of like in A Song of Ice and Fire, how Casterly Rock is described to be built into the cliff. I don't know if you can see well from there, but I'm trying to build it like into the cliff, the very edge of it and all that, so I don't know. Okay, I think I'm gonna look at this for a bit and come back. Okay, so I went in with watercolor and I did a bit of like a light underpainting. I just added some colors down to kind of get the base of, I don't know, what am I even saying? If you paint, you know that you lay down colors before you start doing like the main details, and any details you just want to like lay down a few colors in the background, and that just gives like a richer look to your paint and your picture in the end, and it makes it, you know, pop. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of giving like a base layer to all of the main shapes in my piece. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that clip of me ranting earlier. I don't hope I didn't come across as like disparaging people who like their main goal is to be like a bestseller and sell 1 million copies. But I don't know, I just like, I've been realizing recently, like, because there was a time where I was also like, I'm gonna be the next like J.K. Rowling or Sarah J. Maas, like write a bunch of books and sell a bunch of copies, but I'm also realistic where like I've read up on how publishing works, and I know that getting traditionally published can be like a big uphill battle, and I think if you want to be, if you're an artist or you're a person who makes things, which, you know, we all should be, but if you're a person who makes things and wants to, you know, show the world those things, I think you need to be sure that you're making them because you want to make them and because you feel called to make them, and a part of you like almost needs to make the things that you're making. I think that's like the true sign of, you know, being an artist or making things for, I guess, the right reasons. And that might be controversial to say. I know we live in a capitalist society where, you know, people who make things have to make money off of them to make money to live. And that's obviously important to consider, but I do think at a certain point, like, everyone wants to be an artist, but it's like, you kind of have to look within and be like, okay, am I making this so that people love me and that people respect me and there's acclaim for me, or am I making this because I want to? And I know not everyone has the luxury of creating because they want to, obviously, but I don't know, these are just questions that have been on my mind recently as I've been existing in this space online and as I've been getting further along in my process of trying to become an author. And I have no idea whether one day I'm gonna traditionally publish or self-publish. I originally was like, traditionally publish is the only way for me, but who knows? Like, a lot of people look for agents for years and years and years. A lot of people's books stay on submission for years and years and years, so it kind of really depends. It really depends. It's all kind of up to fate right now. And granted, my book isn't really ready to be published. I know that. It's with beta readers, and I'm probably going to have like 2 or 3 more drafts after it's with beta readers, but I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts about books and the book space and the publishing industry and, you know, art for art's sake. And I figured if I was going to do art all morning and just take B-roll of it, why not just talk at the camera instead of take B-roll? Because that's what a YouTube channel, I mean, a YouTube channel is long-form content. I can't really talk like this on TikTok or whatever, so yeah, here we are, Evie ranting at the camera for 10 minutes about books and art and the publishing industry and whatnot. Anyway, I don't know if you can see, but I've given the castle like a bit of like an orange tint, and the rock a bit of like an orangey brown tint, because in my book the castle is made out of sandstone, which is like an orange rock anyway. I'm gonna wait for this to dry, do a few more details, and then check back in. Also, these are the watercolors I'm using. They're the Fine Tech watercolors. Okay, oh, hello. This little guy has been very involved with me this morning, as you can see. But I've been making good progress on my cliffside castle drawing. It's very orange right now. I'm gonna, when this layer dries, I'm gonna add some darker bricks to it, and maybe like some purple and some brown to kind of just like darken it and give it some dimension. But I think I'm gonna take a break, let that dry, and maybe work on some chapters for book 2. I'm kind of dreading it a little bit, but I think I'm just gonna pick like a random scene in my head and write it instead of going in order like I usually do. So yeah, art for now is taking a little break, and oh, hi buddy. And then we're gonna try to develop a chapter or write a little bit of a scene, and then I'll come back to my art when it's more dry. Okay, this is kind of a big check-in. A lot has happened between when I ate lunch and now. I wrote about 7 pages of a chapter for book 2. It's not exactly in order. Like what's happening in book 2 right now is I have written up until they decide to sail off to the Pirate Council, and then I didn't really feel like writing in between the travel, so I decided to just write the Pirate Council scene with Julian attending the Council of Pirates, which was very exciting. So I did that. I got about 7 pages down. I'll check word count. 1,200 words, which is pretty good. Not the full chapter done, but still quite a bit of headway on that. And then I also did a bit more work on my Castle Upon the Cliff painting, which is coming along pretty nicely. I'm quite happy with what I got done today. Obviously it's not done, but it's, you know, closer to done than it was this morning. And now for my last task of the day, I'm going to set up the confidentiality agreements that I'm going to set out. I have to make, I think, like 3 more PDFs of that. So I'm going to do that so I can get my stuff out to my beta readers. But yeah, this is probably all that I'm going to do today. I'll make like a little clip signing off after I do this. But yeah, great progress. Okay, just checking in after I made 8 new beta reader agreements, and those are going to be sent off and processed, so that's very exciting, which means I will have most of my beta readers all in order. Yay, so that's great. I feel like between my artwork, the 7 pages I wrote, and the beta reader agreements, I feel good about my productivity today, and I feel like happy and fulfilled with the direction that this trilogy is going, which feels crazy to say trilogy. But yeah, so I'll see you soon. Hopefully we can just in the next like couple weeks just finish writing part 2. And I think when I finish writing part 2, I'll, you know, call this vlog and be done with it. I also want to make like a timeline of all 3 books like back to back to back. So maybe we'll work on that in this vlog. But otherwise, thanks for watching and hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys soon.